is the iPhone 2G. This is the phone that kickstarted it all with that aluminum back iPhone. This is the 4GB one, so this one is a little bit rare. And we're gonna start the video by talking about something that I think not everyone knows about this phone. So basically this phone came with some different features. So in the middle here is a play pause switch. Actually, this one does not have the play pause switch in the middle. That came to the iPhone 3G. So if you press the middle of the 3G or 3GS, it would play pause the music. So you have a volume up, volume down, ringer, which is the same on the 3G. You have the headphone jack, which is inverted, so you can only use Apple headphones. SIM card slot, power button, which is a little different than the 3G and 3GS. You have your back of your iPhone, and you have your front screen, and you'll see that in a second. So this is like the standard home screen. This is iOS 3.1.3, and the original software for this phone was iOS 1. Now these phones are very expensive if you want an original OS. So this is what it looks like. You're going to see that there's no SMS on here. All of the apps are the same, but we have one new app, and that's just voice memos. I don't have the box to show you to compare everything because the boxes are more expensive than the phone itself. So what can you do? Weather, we're going to jump in there just to see if you have that option to click the settings. So this was running at 412 megahertz and only had 128 megabytes of RAM. 128 megabytes of RAM. Well, this guy's not happy right now. Oh, there we go. So no, you cannot click on it. That I think was a feature on iOS 4. It actually clicks, double tap it, and you're in your contacts. If you want to call somebody. So, it can't because the SIM is not inserted. So, if you go into your clocks app, this is what it used to look like. So, you have your stopwatch, your clock, your alarm, and basically your world clock. This is how it looked like in all of them. On iOS 2, I forgot to show this, but it's basically the same thing as iOS 3. Notes. We're going to add a new one. And I'll show you how this phone kind of lags. System, I think. So I'm just going to show you what we have here in the settings app. So some of the new stuff is basically the App Store. There's a settings bar for that. And that was all that was included. We got some Safari options. But as you can see, the fetch new data symbol is not there anymore because now with these iPhones and iOS 3, it's able to get repeated continuous updates. And that really hit this battery hard. So you got airplane mode. This phone did come with, it did come with Bluetooth network. Basically, it's, another thing. So there was no 3G option. You just had the option to have your data roaming, and that's how it would collect its 2G network. Location services, I'm just going to click them on because I like having things on here, but it doesn't come up there. I'm going to use it later. So basically, iOS 3 took up 900 megabytes, just like iOS 2. There wasn't anything different. Parker's iPhone. Okay. So basically, the modem in here is an AT&T 1.0 chip for iOS 2, but this is how much the character got updated in the settings. This is iOS 3.3. The model network is not available right now. So we're gonna go on here. You have auto lock, passcode, your restrictions. I wonder what that is. Okay, so you can enable restrictions on this kind of stuff. So this is kind of like very early parental control with restrictions. In iOS 2, that is not an option. But yeah, so you got date and time, keyboard, international, basically the same stuff as iOS 2. You cannot put your battery up here. That didn't come until iOS 4, which I do not have. But that one was kind of like a very minimal update, and it's very, very, very hard to find an iPhone 4 with iOS 4. Now you can find iPhone 3G and 3GSs with iOS 4, but you're but putting stuff on the home screen as like a picture is one of the key features, and you can get it on the 3G, but you want to see that Retina display. Going from looking at this to looking at the iPhone 4 Retina display is so beautiful, even with my iPhone 8 going to the iPhone 4 Retina display, because the pixels are so condensed, where my iPhone 8 is still the same 326 ppi as the iPhone 4, but it's more spread out. But I don't really mind it that much. So brightness, I never have these older iPhones on full brightness because it causes LCD burn-in, and that's bad. Mail, contacts, calendars, this is just what we got here. Not really anything too fancy. Airplane mode. Now, there's no Facebook or Twitter. That came with the iPhone 4. iPod. Okay, now, processor was a Samsung RAM. This is the Samsung RAM processors. Alrighty, so about Apple's in-house chipsets. In the iPhone 8, we saw the first Apple-made graphics card. In the iPhone 4, we saw the first A-series processor that was in a phone. And later in the 2020s, we're going to be seeing Apple's in-house modems coming out. But for a long time, Samsung made the processors. iPhone 7 and all the way back to the iPhone original, the iPhones had Power VR processors made from some company I've never heard of before, and they were custom made for iPhones. And then Apple kind of took over it and then began implementing their own processors within the CPU card, like we see in the A12X and the A12Z, where we have GPU and CPU together in the same chip. Hacks and jailbreaks that were pretty prevalent up until about iOS 9. That's when Cydia and basically jailbreaking iPhones kind of started to go down, way down, because of all the features that were available in iOS 9 that Apple added. But there's a way to get video on this phone. There's a way to get not AT&T on this phone, but it was risky because you couldn't update it. You couldn't really do much with it, and the video was so bad on the 3-megapixel camera. And there was. So this is the iOS 3 Safari layout, and as you can see, you have your search bar to go through AT&T, and then you have your other one, which is your default browser, the Google search bar. And most of the time, people would just click on the Google search bar anyway, so they ended up getting rid of the second search bar and just kept one of the later versions of iOS. In iOS 7, where it became that one unified search bar. But until then, there was no private browsing. You just had your one simple browser. So here we're going to type in apple.com, and we're going to see how the page loads. Now, we're loading. Man, this thing takes a while. Hey, it's finally loading. And it took a while, but it did it. Doesn't look like we can see images though. And then that's your multitasking view. So with iOS 1, 2, 3, and 4, the RAM is automatically cleared. So you can't jump back into the only thing that does not clear the RAM is Safari, because for multitasking the pages. But if you want to research something, then text someone, and you had a text already written, you could not save it. Let me show you what I mean here. So we're going to do that. And then we're going to close out. We're going Safari. We're going to look at some Apple. Just going to accept the certificate. And browsing on this phone was so messy. No one really used it. They just used it for its touchscreen interface and for the fact that it had a calculator when you bought. The fact that you didn't have to carry a calculator around in your phone was probably the greatest thing ever. So, yeah, that's great. We're going to X that out. And we're going to go back into here. And as you can see, it did not save because it clears the RAM. Oh, wait, there it goes. Okay, weird. On the 3G with iOS 2, it doesn't. This probably works in the background. So just stating that. All right, so we have notes. We looked at calculate through mail. So this is so cool. So this is just what you had back then. You just had the inboxes and you can write a new mail note. And this is what it looked like standard from everything else. All right, so this is how you checked for your mail. You did that, so you had to go into the app. So there was a lot of customization options for mail that I did not show in this video because I could not get my email to work. But one of the things you could do is you could add different inboxes. And you could have an inbox, you can have an important inbox, you had your spam, your junk, and your trash, and that's really it. And then you could add other folders. When sending and receiving messages, you could choose to block people, but you couldn't choose to favorite them. And then also in mail, you had a lot of other features, like being able to make fonts differently and be able to bold and italicize and underline text, and that was really it. You could also import pictures into mail if you wanted to, but you had to send the picture and then the email, so you'd be sending 2 emails. This obviously got refined in later versions of iOS, starting with iOS 4, because the iPad, we wanted to have drag and different support for that bigger iOS device. So they added a lot to iOS once the iPad came out because it taught Apple a lot about what iOS really needed. The Mail app was probably one of the most sophisticated apps on the iPhone original, 2G, 3G, and 3GS, because it was something that people used a lot. And it was probably the main feature of the mobile phone market and the smartphone market was you could search for stuff on the web, you could email people from your phone, you can text and call people from that phone, and you had a calculator. Now, I did mention this earlier in the video, but the calculator was huge because businessmen all the time used to carry around a flip phone, a pager, a calculator, a notepad, and a pencil. And the iPhone basically, you didn't need any of that anymore. You just had one device. And they also had their iPod with them too, which the iPhone had as well. Contacts are the same, iOS 2 and iOS 3. But this phone was so amazing, no matter what iOS you had. I mean, I like holding this in the hand. I do not like holding the 3Gs in the hand, but this one does have that nice aluminum. Searching for stuff on here, pretty self-explanatory. Phone is, again, pretty self-explanatory. Same as the other ones. I did calendar. We gotta check that out. Okay, so this is where it's different. Okay, so sorry about that. This is where it's different. So what you can see here is that this, so on the iPhone 2G, it basically defaulted to this, and this was not, it's not the only one you could use, but it was either month or list. That was it. This one, there's more that you can use. So we're going to do a new event. I wonder if we can edit the color. No, we cannot edit the color, nor can we have location. Now, another thing to mention is the only way you could update these phones is through iTunes. Only way. iOS 5.1 was the first iOS that allowed you to update it inside the phone. Today I'm coming at you with another segment to the iPhone original video. So basically I'm going to talk about some features of... Right now I'm syncing with my mom's iTunes library. She still has a bunch of music downloaded that I'm going to be syncing to all my devices because we're right now syncing in progress on this stand. Now this stand's really cool because it came in the box with the iPhone, and on the bottom there is a headphone jack and a USB for the 30-pin connector, and then you connect it into your computer or you connect it to your wall outlet. This is a 10-watt wall outlet, and it was the only 10-watt wall outlet to ship with these phones. Every single phone after that, a 5-watt wall outlet, and a USB to 30-pin, and no stand. The 3G did come with a stand though, but only the 3Gs that were released in 2008. I do have an original 3G that came with the stand. And again, for this, one of the cool things is you do not need an internet connection to do a sync in progress. You just have to have your computer connected to the internet. But I will connect that guy to the internet to hopefully load the App Store, as I did not do it in this video, to kind of see if it works on iOS 3 still. Oh, as you can see, it's coming from here from the attached headphone jack here to here. And this was to get around the fact that this headphone jack in here was recessed, so you couldn't really pair it with speakers. But we do have all the music on here. Okay, so we're gonna do some features of this iPhone. So first we're gonna go to the home button, home screen, and then we're gonna take a look at the camera. So this is the same camera icon as it was until iOS 7, where, yeah, sure, we'll see if that works. Where you can take a picture like that, and the pictures looked like crap. Like actual dog doo-doo. And hit the home button. So that was just a quick thing in the camera app. There wasn't any way to take photos or video other than that. You couldn't take them within apps because that permission wasn't set up yet. So this is going to be the audio recording for the iPhone 2G and 3G. 3G on iOS 2. 2G on iOS 3 comparison. So I couldn't get the App Store or the iTunes Store to load on those devices because they were too old. And even back in 2017, I couldn't get the App Store, the iTunes Store to load on the 3G with iOS 2. But on the 2G with iOS 3, the App Store does load, and I'm going to show you some comparisons. And the iTunes Store definitely did change between iOS 2 and iOS 3, but the App Store didn't, based on the list below. Some big things that went on is I think the iTunes Store got more refined, and they wanted to include more features so that when you were on the go, you could download stuff from the iTunes Store. With the better capabilities that 3GS brought, it was able to download things from the go, where the other two devices really couldn't download stuff from the go. The iTunes Store... So I couldn't get the Mail app to work on the video to show you some of the changes that were made. For some reason, my iPod Touch 6th generation would not let me insert photos and stuff because its storage was full because of all the music that's on there from this guy that was in the audio industry. And since it's only an 8 gig device, I didn't want to delete stuff. And I'm pretty sure there's videos online about the changes that were brought to Mail. There's some articles that are out there, like the one of Cult of Mac, which I'm going to link down below. And basically, there were a lot of changes that went down with the Mail app at this time. Some of them included, you got new notification centers, you got to have multiple signatures, so that means multiple different email accounts. And then you could also look at some of the Steve Jobs keynote for iOS 5. And iOS 3 with the launch of the iPad, because there were some very exclusive Mail app features from the iPad that I could not recreate. And those are all online on YouTube for you to see. I'm going to link them down below, the Steve Jobs unveiling of the iPad. And then the iOS 6 WWDC keynote, which was in 2012, because 2011 was iOS 5. So the 2012 keynote, there was a lot that was added to iOS 6 and a lot that was added to Mail. iOS 4 brought some stuff to Mail, but they weren't big major features like in iOS 6. And then in iOS 7, we got that complete redesign of the Mail app. All right, now we're going to go on the Stocks app. And there were a lot of new things about the Stocks app. So first off, you got to have... all these points where you had, first off, this is where your little graph would be, and then your chart, and then some news, and then this is where it would tell you about different details. Now, you could click here still and get prices and market caps, and on Wi-Fi, you'd be able to see news and different things like that. So going to the home screen, the YouTube app, this is what the kind of things you got in the YouTube app. This app you can't really use anymore, even on Wi-Fi. So featured, most viewed videos, all this week today. This kind of turned into your trending page, more tailored to you, your favorite videos. And then you could have more stuff like your subscriptions, playlists, history, and all of this stuff is still on YouTube today. And you could either even sign in through your account through this app. It's just that all the servers are down, so it won't work. So next I'm gonna go enter my Wi-Fi password, get some more phones hooked up, and then we're gonna go look at the App Store, the iTunes Store, and some features about the iPod with the music. And what do you know? Lo and behold, it does work. So I got my Wi-Fi password on this thing, and we're gonna go through the App Store a bit. So, categories. And it's very slow to move between the different icons. So, in your categories, it's the same thing as today. You can sign in. We're not gonna sign in because I already tried it and I couldn't get any of the apps that I pre-purchased on the 6th to come up on here because very little apps came out in 2009. It wasn't until 2010 where we had the big app boom. So these are all the top paid, the free, and then the top grossing icons. I can't believe this still works. On iOS 2, it does not, and I may actually get that iPhone out here. Interesting. Search, and then you had your app updates, which you did in here. Now, let's load the iTunes Store really quickly. Because this is also the same as iOS 2. No new features were added. Okay, you could get your music. Oh. Question mark, question mark? Interesting. Voice memos. Ooh, is that a focus? Let's get some focus back in there. Okay, so voice memos, whenever you recorded something, it was just like that. You would get a little recording, and then when you home button, and that still goes on today with the red bar going up on the top of the iPhone, and this is where it came from. And then when you were done, you press that, and then you would go here, recording paused. You could start it up again. And then when you were done, you hit that. And you could go view recording. Yeah, email. And then it would show up in there to the iTunes Store during that time that I didn't pick up. So we're gonna go into the iPod now, and we're gonna go back to all the features there. So this is cover flow. And then you could scroll through all your music. And you could pause it there. You could. And then you change the volume. You cannot skip it within here, and then the song shows up on your home screen. And then you would have to go in and then skip it here. If music was playing and you double click the home button, this is what you would get. You would get a pop-up. But if music wasn't playing, you would get the Contacts app. Scrubbing. That was volume. Okay, that was your scrubbing. You had to hold down the skip button. It's the same as it is now. A lot of the music player stuff got updated in iOS 4 because they realized that you wanted to know a timestamp, you wanted to be able to scrub through easily, you wanted to be able to favorite songs, you wanted to be able to put songs in other albums like you couldn't really do that here. If I hold down, it doesn't do anything. And then if I swipe left or right, it doesn't do anything either. And then there was this now playing bar up here. You could shuffle, but there was no way for you to add new playlists. You would have to do that on your Mac or PC, then resync, and then everything would be there. All right, and that's the iPhone original on iOS there. I hope you enjoyed the video, and there's a lot to learn from here.